One of the most confusing aspects of starting your Amazon business is how to ship your products from overseas, such as in China, to Amazon's FBA fulfillment centers. It's not as simple as slapping a shipping label on your boxes like you're sending a package to a friend. There is a lot of Amazon rules and guidelines that you need to follow, labeling requirements, federal import and export regulations, duties, and other shipping logistics. In fact, there are a lot of moving parts and several parties involved in the shipping process that if any of one of them is done wrong, it can delay your shipment, you can incur fines and penalties, or even have your shipment sent back to China. So in this video, I'll explain to you how the entire shipment process works and how you can have your products shipped from China to Amazon's FBA warehouses in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. So I'm gonna break this video down into 3 parts. First, I think it would be beneficial if we went over how the entire shipment process works from end to end. That way you'll understand all the steps that are involved from when your products leave your supplier or manufacturer's warehouse in China to when it arrives at Amazon's fulfillment centers. Then I'll break down the shipping process into 2 separate shipping strategies. The first is how to ship your products directly from your supplier or manufacturer in China to Amazon's FBA warehouses. And the second, I'll show you how to ship your products from China to a third party, such as a 3PL, first, and then to Amazon's FBA warehouses, and I'll go over the pros and cons of each. All right, so let's talk about how the entire shipping process works from end to end. When your product begins its journey, in order to get your product from the supplier's warehouse to the local port, it can travel by train, truck, or plane, or a combination of the 3 to get there. Then it'll cross the ocean either by plane or boat to a US port. And finally, from the port here in the US, it'll travel to Amazon's warehouse or a third party, either by air, train, or by truck, or a combination of the 3. Shipping by air is the fastest, but it's also the most expensive. Shipping by air typically takes 7 to 10 business days, whereas shipping by sea, which is significantly cheaper, can take anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks. Now, what I suggest is if you're shipping a small quantity, like during a product launch, then ship by air so that you can start selling right away. However, if you have large or heavy products, or if you're shipping large quantities, then ship by sea. Or you can ship a small portion by air so that you can get some inventory in stock and ship the bulk of the inventory by sea to cut down on the costs. But because shipping by sea takes significantly longer, you'll want to make sure that you plan your restocking shipments appropriately so that you don't run out of stock. All right, so in order for your shipments to leave China, cross the ocean, and enter the US, a lot of things need to happen behind the scenes besides just physically moving the products from one place to the other. You need to have a customs broker. That's someone that files all the import-export paperwork and deals with customs, duties, and fees. All of the proper documents need to be filled out. Insurance and the arrangement of the shipment itself between all the parties involved also need to be coordinated. So who does all of this? Well, you can do it yourself, but I highly recommend that you don't do that. It's pretty complicated, and if you don't do it right, it can cause massive delays, fines, and even have your shipment sent back to China, or all of the above. What I suggest you do is hire a freight forwarder. A freight forwarder is someone who is going to handle the entire shipment process for you from beginning to end. They'll talk to everyone involved, such as your supplier or manufacturer and the shipping carrier, take care of all of the paperwork and insurance, and they'll usually have a customs broker that will file all of the import-export documents and handle the duties and fees on your behalf. So basically, a freight forwarder will handle all of the logistics for you. And once all that is done, a shipping carrier like FedEx, UPS, or DHL will pick up the shipment from your supplier or manufacturer's warehouse in China and transport it to a local port in China. Your shipment then gets loaded onto a plane or a ship, crosses the ocean, and travels to a port here in the US, usually in California. And once it clears customs and the duties are paid, a shipping carrier picks up your shipment from the port and transports it to Amazon's warehouses or a third party like a 3PL. Now, sometimes your supplier or manufacturer can handle the shipment for you, so you don't have to hire a freight forwarder. You can ask them to see if they offer this service, and if they do, you can compare prices and options with a freight forwarder to see which option is best for you. Now, if you decide to use your supplier, there's one important factor that you need to consider, and that's the Incoterms. Unlike hiring a freight forwarder where they'll handle everything for you, your supplier or manufacturer may not. They may only be willing to handle a small portion of the shipment. You may have heard of some of these Incoterms, such as FOB, EXW, and DDP. These are terms used in the shipping industry to describe who's responsible for what during the shipping process. There's actually many more terms like you can see here on this chart here, but these 3 are the most common ones that you'll see. EXW stands for Ex Works. This is when your supplier is only responsible for manufacturing your product and having them ready for pickup at their warehouse. You would then be responsible for arranging the pickup and the rest of the shipment, or like I said earlier, you can hire a freight forwarder to handle it from that point. FOB stands for free on board or freight on board. This is where your supplier is responsible for transporting your shipment from their warehouse to the local port in China. Then you would be responsible for arranging the shipment from the port to the final destination. And DDP stands for delivery duties paid. This is the easiest and simplest method and the one I actually recommend. This is where the supplier will handle the entire shipment for you, basically acting like a freight forwarder. They'll handle the arrangement of the shipment from their warehouse to Amazon or third party, including filling out all the paperwork, dealing with customs, and paying the duties. All you have to do is pay your supplier and you're done. Now, this service, as well as any duties, would be already included in the final fee that you would pay your supplier. Okay, so that's how the entire shipping process works. Now let's talk about the two different shipping strategies. First, let's talk about shipping your products directly from your supplier or manufacturer in China to Amazon's FBA warehouses. Now, shipping directly from your supplier to Amazon is going to be the fastest and least expensive strategy. This will also usually save you around 1 to 2 weeks of transit time, since your products are going directly to Amazon and not making any extra stops in between. This strategy is the least expensive since you don't have to pay any additional handling or storage fees that a 3PL would normally charge. What you do need to be aware of is if you ship directly to Amazon, is you have to make 100% sure that your products are prepped and labeled correctly and that there isn't any damage to inventory. Your products need to have the proper barcode on each unit, any warning labels, expiration dates, and country of origin placed on them. And the shipping cartons need to be properly packaged and labeled as well. These are all mandatory requirements by Amazon and US Customs. That's why it's crucial that you always have an inspection done before your products leave your supplier or manufacturer's warehouse. Otherwise, incorrectly prepped or labeled products will incur fines and penalties, and you'll get bad reviews from selling damaged goods. Now, there can be some potential problems with shipping directly to Amazon. For example, due to your storage capacity limits, you might not be able to ship your entire inventory to Amazon at once. You can see here that sellers with the individual seller plan have a storage capacity limit of only 15 cubic feet. New sellers that are active less than 39 weeks don't have any storage limits, and sellers older than 39 weeks will have a storage capacity limit based on their IPI score and sales performance. You can actually see what your storage capacity limit is in Seller Central by clicking on Menu, Inventory, Shipping, and down at the bottom of the page, click on Capacity Monitor. And here you can see how much total storage you have and how much remaining storage you have available. You also need to consider Amazon's new inventory placement service fees when you ship to Amazon's FBA warehouses. Depending on which option you choose here, for example, if I choose to ship to 5 Amazon warehouses, there's no placement fee. However, if I want to ship to fewer FBA warehouses, shipping to only 3 will cost this much here. And only shipping to 1 warehouse will cost much, much more, as you can see here. And these inventory splits can vary depending on what you're shipping in and how many. In some cases, you may not have all 3 options available to you, as you can see here. Now, shipping directly to Amazon from China will require you to create a shipping plan. And in order to create a shipping plan, you need to have a verified Amazon seller account and added your product to Amazon's marketplace or created a new product listing. The shipping plan will allow you to specify what products you plan to ship to Amazon, how many of each product, and when the product will be shipped, and an estimated delivery window. You can also choose whether you plan to arrange the shipment yourself through your own freight forwarder and shipping carrier like FedEx, UPS, or DHL, or you can use Amazon's partnered carrier program where you can ship your products through one of Amazon's shipping partners, like you can see here, and take advantage of Amazon's huge shipping discount where the savings can be as much as 50% or more. What you can do is get a quote from a freight forwarder and compare prices to see which option is best. You can also save money by entering a California address here in the shipping plan. This way, Amazon will tend to have you ship your inventory to their FBA warehouses that are closer to the port instead of in the middle of the country. Now, if you want to learn how to create an Amazon seller account, add your product to Amazon's marketplace, and create your first shipping plan, I'll leave a detailed video down in the description below. All right, Now, let's talk about shipping your products to a 3PL, how that works, and what the advantages are. Now, a 3PL is a third party that will receive and store your products for you and ship your products to Amazon on your behalf whenever you need to restock. The advantages here are if you don't have enough storage capacity at Amazon, or if you want to save money by not storing your inventory at Amazon's FBA warehouses, since their storage fees are much higher, you can use a 3PL to store the inventory for you. A 3PL can also do product inspections, labeling, any additional prep that you might require, consolidate your shipments, and even break them down into smaller batches for you. For example, by using a 3PL, they can check for damaged items, reconsolidate your inventory to ship to multiple Amazon warehouses, and ship smaller batches of products to Amazon whenever you need to restock. And here's a pro tip. Although a 3PL can inspect your products for damage or improper labeling, you still want to have an inspection done before your products leave your supplier or manufacturer's warehouse in China. That way they can fix the problem before it leaves their hands. It becomes infinitely more difficult to resolve problems once your products have left their warehouse, since they can deny liability for any damage, or the cost to ship the products back to China can be cost prohibitive. Now, the cons with using a 3PL are that you have to pay for these extra services, so it can be more expensive than shipping directly to Amazon. It also adds around an additional 1 to 2 weeks of transit time, since your products need to ship to the 3PL first before moving on to Amazon's FBA warehouses. So keep that in mind if you're on a time constraint to restock. There's also a higher chance for lost or damaged products since your shipment is now being handled multiple times. But again, like I mentioned earlier, if you need additional quality control, prep or labeling, or storage space, using a 3PL can be a much better option for you, especially since it's a much cheaper long-term storage solution compared to Amazon, especially during Q4 when Amazon storage fees increase by as much as 3 or 4 times. As you can see here, between January and September, the standard storage fee is 78 cents per cubic foot, but it skyrockets to $2.40 between October and December. So how do you ship your inventory from China to a 3PL? Well, here's where you need to arrange the shipment yourself, either by having your supplier or manufacturer take care of the shipment and logistics for you, or by hiring a freight forwarder. And like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to do this yourself. I highly recommend hiring a freight forwarder. They'll be able to make sure all the proper documents are filled out correctly, all of the fees and duties are paid, your shipments are labeled correctly and picked up and shipped on time, and if any problems arise, they'll be able to handle it for you. And I do want to mention here that you don't need to create a shipping plan if you're not shipping directly to Amazon. You only need to create a shipping plan when the final destination is Amazon's FBA warehouses. Amazon needs to know what you're shipping in and when to expect it. So only when you're ready to ship your products from the 3PL to Amazon, that's when you need to create a shipping plan. Now, creating a shipping plan for the first time can be a challenge in itself and can be quite confusing for most beginners. And this video right over here will show you step by step how to create one.